e-marketing extravaganza. We're committed to showing you over the next couple of weeks all of the different ways that you can exploit your Swiftpage account and make as much money as possible throughout the year with your e-marketing. And we're starting with today's point 1 on our treasure triangle on mastering Swiftpage e-blasts. My name is Lori Feldman, and I am president of Aviva LLC and the database Diva. We help companies grow by monetizing their ACT database and integrating it with their website, blog, and e-marketing systems, including social media. And on the phone accompanying me today is Todd Vio, our senior ACT consultant and programmer. Todd, say hi.
Hello.
And our goal for the training on the Treasure Triangle is to demystify the email marketing process, but also to give you an awareness of all of the components of e-marketing, because there's so many times when I'm talking to someone and I'll say, what are you doing for email? Oh, we do email. We do email. We got that covered. But in reality, all they're doing is sending out e-blasts, and that's only one part of an e-marketing system. So you have a Q&A panel. If you feel like you need to ask questions as we go ahead and type them into your chat box, and we'll sprinkle them throughout our presentation and also save time at the end. Here's our agenda for today, very short and simple. We're going to cover what the Treasure Triangle is, and for those of you who have been following us for a while, you know this is kind of like our Bible blueprint. So you probably heard it, but it doesn't hurt to hear it a couple of times. So then we'll cover goal setting, very important with e-blasts. Otherwise, you come across looking like a spammer. We don't want you to have that problem. Creating a master template. This gets into the branding of how you do e-marketing. And then collecting the pieces and parts that you need to put out a good e-blast so that you're not wasting a lot of time trying to pull it all together. We also hear of people that take days, weeks, months, never getting their emails out because something is too hard. So if you know everything that you need up front, it's super easier to get them done. We're going to talk about subject line considerations and then trackability. Very important. If you're doing e-marketing, you have to be able to track what you're doing. So let me start by jumping in with the Treasure Triangle. The Treasure Triangle is an equilateral triangle. All three sides are equal. You need all three to have a complete e-marketing system. So we're going to talk about email blasts today, but there's also an e-newsletter component. That'll be next week. And then the drip marketing, which for the very first time I am going to go share some of my drip marketing secrets that I usually don't share on these weekly trainings, but it's so important, and it's the kind of the cap to the Treasure Triangle, kind of the culmination. So I've got a really nice presentation, and I hope you guys will show up for that one too. I do have a 3-minute video on our website that goes into more detail about this, but let me just say that email blasts are probably, when people say that they're doing email marketing, that is the only thing that they really are doing. And there are some very specific things that you need to include when you do e-blasts, or you need to save them for something else. So for example, an e-blast is the most urgent of the 3 points on the triangle. So it's information that can't wait. There's usually a deadline, or it's time and date sensitive. There's an urgent announcement. You've got a new product launch. You're having a sale. Something like that, where if you don't get it out right now, it's going to be old news. That is what is worthy of an email blast. If it can wait, if it's not as urgent, it's probably something that needs to go into a newsletter. And one of the problems with e-blasts is that the way they work the best and are least considered spam by the recipients that you're sending to is when there is only one idea that you're sharing. You're not throwing in the entire kitchen sink. You're only selecting one idea and getting them excited enough that they'll take some kind of an action. And we're going to talk about what a call to action is, where calls to action go, but if you've heard the old acronym WIFM, what's in it for me, that is the quintessential email blast question. So we're going to talk about goals next. And goals, even though an e-blast has urgency, you should still be planning them at least 85% of the time. They shouldn't be like, oh my gosh, I forgot to get this out, quick, blast something out. Those are the ones that come across very spammy to the people on the other end, and if that's the only way that you think about your email blast, then people get tired of you, they'll opt out. So think of what you're doing as building credibility over time with your base by releasing messages consistently. So you may still have urgency in the messages, but they need to be planned out. This is where a marketing calendar is really a good idea, and a marketing calendar that you can share with everyone in your office, so in case you forget something, other people can contribute ideas and you can put those on the calendar to cover as well. When things are planned out, it's much easier to focus on what your one big idea is instead of thinking, oh my gosh, I may never get to this again, I got to throw everything in there. So I have 3 examples for you of what I think are pretty good ideas for e-blasts. And, you know, depending on what business you're in, you can adjust accordingly, but I think you can get the concept. So here's the first one. Florida Light Lanterns is a company that sells handmade lanterns at the French Quarter in New Orleans. So holidays are a big tourist time for them, and even though they sell online, their sales are very much driven by the different holidays. And she times all of her e-blasts to go out with certain holidays throughout the year because usually it's a gift-giving opportunity or a memorial to, like, Mardi Gras, for example. And so I'm going to show you, okay, this is, let's see if we can do this. Here we go. So I clicked on the link in the email that says show on the website, so that's why it doesn't look like a normal email, but this is the email that I wanted to show you. So this is one that she sent out for Valentine's Day, and since her items are handmade, they're a product, we've got lots of big pictures in there of what she's making. She's got a little bit of a, you know, wish from the proprietor for a happy Valentine's Day, but also the call to, here's the call to action right here. Buy candles or buy lanterns. She sells both. So here's an example of a candle in a lantern. So this is the call to action. There, I don't think there's any other links in here, actually. No. And this one, those were the only 2 links. Actually, Facebook. So they could go to Facebook and look at her Facebook account, but the call to action is to actually buy something. So one thought, one holiday, one click, depending on the product, done. So that is a good way to handle if you're product-based, there's a specific reason that you're sending something out, and you're giving people a chance to take the next step with you, hopefully to order. Okay, my next example is, hold on a second. Oh, it's right here. There we go. This project management resource group, what they're selling, I assume, is a course. Here's the call to action, but here's a call to action, here's a call to action, here's a call to action, here's one, and if we scroll down, many, many more, millions of calls to action. This was a good idea gone awry, in my opinion. There's way too much going on. 2014 special, and I think I just got this in my inbox, so somebody forgot to change that. We've got testimonials. All of this is really good stuff, but guess what? An email is not a salesperson. An email cannot sell your stuff for you. That is your job, and that is the job of your website. So what this should have done was to have probably just this middle section, and the banner, that's fine. I'm not a huge fan of stock photography. I think that screams advertisement, and it doesn't really even look like they're doing project management stuff, but who knows. But the calendar, this thing, that thing, all this stuff, that could be something that people would find on the website once they're interested. But the purpose of this email was just to find out if they're interested, not to sell. I forgot to click, I guess we could click through and see how much the class is. So let's just do that. Oh, brilliant. So we don't even go to one class, we go to their entire year schedule. That's not a good idea. So if they were selling the next class, then it should have just sent us to the landing page for just this first next one. So March 10, I guess that's the next one. So let's see if I can click on that. Okay, so that call to action from the email should have sent us here. However, the way that they're doing this, you wouldn't get that much information on this page. This is probably the shopping cart. So they, in my opinion, they have a problem. They are giving away way too much information in the initial email, and they are not giving people a clear understanding of what am I supposed to do when I get to this, when I open this email, if I even open it. With all these graphics, it's going to come into my inbox with lots of red X's until I download pictures. So what is it that is the most important topic or the most important call to action on this page? And it's very hard to know what that is. So even though this is a good idea, this is a good purpose to have an event. You could have a trade show. You could have a webinar like we're doing now. You could have invite people to lunch, dinner, whatever, some kind of a live event. That's a good reason to have an invitation go out in an email, but it should only have one idea, just one idea. Okay. My third example, let me find that one. Okay, this is actually the email that I got in my inbox. Again, it's the website view of it. When you have a B2B product or service, if you're in a B2B market, you're not selling to consumers. So the Lanterns example was a B2C. That was a company selling to individuals, consumers. But if you have a B2B company where you're selling to other businesses, in all likelihood, you have a multi-step process, multi-step sales process, and you either need to do one of two things. You need to either construct a drip marketing campaign with multiple messages over a period of time that matches the sales cycle that you have, or if you're going to do an e-blast, excuse me, it should only be for generating leads. That's it. So in this case, I'm sure that this company, let's see, AOP Digital Publisher, Incisive Interactive Marketing, I'm not sure who this is, excuse me. They're offering a white paper or download ebook from the email. So here's my call to action, one call to action. Actually, they have 3 calls to action. These are the minor calls to action, but they're all ebooks, so I guess they're giving them a choice. That's not terrible, not ideal, but not terrible, because this one does really stand out. When I come into my inbox, this is the part that I see. I have to scroll to get down here. So this is pretty specific. If you're interested in this, do this. I'm sure they're not selling Google My Business listing services. They're probably in some kind of SEO or something like that. I don't know. But they're just trying to capture attention with the lead and enticing you to download this so that you become a lead for them. So we're not selling the entire enchilada, we're only selling a next step, and it's a very high level next step. So those are 3 examples of when to use an eBlast. And you know, if you all have a question about something that you're doing that's a little bit different, I'm happy to weigh in with my opinion on how to handle it or how you could possibly do it better. So just stick something in the chat box. So now we're going to move on to the next item on our agenda, which is yay, I did it. I'm doing this without Todd this time, so I get massive credit for finding the right button to push. Okay, we're going to create a master template. Why do we want to create a master template? The reason that we want to create a master template is because every time you send out an email, you're essentially branding your company. If you're all over the place and every time you send an email, you design a new template, no one is going to get the sense that it's coming from the same person every time. You have to be consistent. If you change your design, if you change your colors, if you change your logo or your masthead, you're not doing yourself any favors. You want to build up credibility over time so that when people just get a glimpse of something coming in the inbox that they've seen before, it's like their lizard brain kicks in and they understand that this is something that they're interested in without actually having to read anything. So you want to create a master template that can satisfy your needs for every eBlast that you'll ever need to send. So if it needs to accommodate pictures, you have a place for that. If it needs to accommodate your banner, it has a place for that. So I don't know that a lot of people are aware of this, but in Swiftpage, under the template editor, if you go to global templates, there is a very long laundry list of templates. And if you hit this button here, Preview All, it will take you into this directory, library of templates. And I will tell you that most of them are repeats, the same one over and over again with different colors or the boxes at the top instead of at the bottom. So it's not super helpful, and I think out of all of these templates, I've looked at all of them many, many times, hoping that some inspirational spark would kick in, and really none of them are that wonderful. And that is one of the complaints that we hear all the time about Swiftpage. They don't have great templates, and it's true. You're going to have to create your own great template. But the one that I like the most is this one down here in the corner. And yes, it's mostly text. So it's got, did you know, that could be swapped out for another header banner. One column. One columns tend to do better on mobile, and something like 47% of all emails are now opened on a mobile device, a phone or a tablet. So that is a consideration. So when you have 2 columns, sometimes things get scrunched on the phones, and they don't render as well as 1 column. So that's one of my recommendations. If you can get away with doing primarily text, if you put a phone number in there, your phone number will be clickable, especially from a mobile device. So you would want to put that really big and up at the top. And also a link to your website, of course, or to a specific landing page. But under the blank, that's where this one, you can find this one. So all of these different colored things, those are all replaceable header placeholders. And then down here would be where you can put your content. You can, of course, add more windows and put more pictures in and you know, start adding back in. This is kind of the stripped down model, I call it. But I like starting with the stripped down model because I think sometimes it's even easier to create templates when you are starting from scratch than when you're trying to modify something that Swiftpage has given you that's a shortcut, and usually doesn't end up being that way. So here is another template that I like, and this is the name of it, customer_education-1 introduction, if you want to look for that in your own account. So again, this is where you can swap out the header. You've got a window here. This green box indicates Swiftpage window. And when you build your templates out, you build them out in Swiftpage windows. Now this is a 2-column one, but again, sometimes the 1 column people feel restricted, so you're just going to have to test and see which ones work the best for you in terms of response. But if you have to go with a 2-column, you want your contact information pushed out here to the right. This is where your main thought with your main call to action should be, because the way that a tablet or a mobile device is going to render it is to stick this paragraph underneath this one. It's not always going to look the way it looks like on the screen. You also want to test that on different devices and different browsers before you send it out to your entire list. But these are just some tips to kind of help you design nice-looking templates that accomplish what you're trying to do. Okay, so my last tip for you is, this is sort of an unknown, or maybe you know it, but you didn't know how it got this way, another way to brand your inbox. Now, we are big advocates, proponents of email addresses that are not sales at, info at. Email should be human-to-human correspondence. So whether that means you have to create a new email address with your name on it in a different way so that you don't use your main email and then have to deal with all the bounces and opt-outs and out-of-offices and all of that. But you want to have a real human from email address. And when you do that, you have the ability to use Google+. Even if you don't know what Google+ is, even if you never plan to do any social updates, it doesn't matter. If you get yourself a Google+ account, you will have the ability to have your picture show up as part of your email in your inbox. So this was just an example that I pulled. Here's mine. I responded to someone, or I asked a question to one of the people on my list, and here's his answer coming back to me. But this happens on your email blast as well, so that if someone is not sure if they want to delete you or not and they open up the email to read it, your little picture, your little icon picture is also going to show up if you, and this is Todd, you want to clarify for us?
Yeah.
Where that?
If you create a Google Plus account, so she has the link there, you can add your image into that. It's a, for those that don't know, Google Plus was Google's social media attempt at social media, I guess you could say. It didn't go over very well, and nobody uses it. However, it still has some connections to email and other things that it does pull from for anybody that's using a Gmail account. So we use Google for our email, and everything is pulled into our Google account. And so that is connected to Gmail or to Google Plus, so that it automatically pulls in. So based on the email address, so make sure when you're creating an account in Google Plus that you use your primary email address or the email address that you're going to be sending your email correspondence through, because that's how it connects everything. So when somebody receives it, Google will go pull that email address, see if there's an image in the Google Plus account, and if so, update the image on the email in their inbox.
So have you seen this work with Outlook, or is it strictly Gmail?
It's just strictly Gmail.
Okay. So what you may not know about your receiving, your recipients is if they use Google Apps, which is what we use, or they have a Gmail account, it's still gonna this is still gonna work. And a lot more people and companies are moving to Google Apps, hosting their email in the cloud. And so if it's Outlook, it's not going to make any difference, but why not use every opportunity to brand your emails that you can, and this is one of the ways to do it. Okay. So let's move on to number 4, collecting all the pieces and parts for the email blast that you want to send out. And this is sort of like, if you think of it like, you know, you're going to bake a cake, you're not going to mix up 3 of the ingredients and then realize that you ran out of eggs and you have to run up to the store. So if you pull everything together in advance, It's going to bring up any issues that you have before you sit down and start building out the template. And by the time that you have everything pulled together, it's going to be so much easier to build that template and actually launch it. So these are the things that you're going to want to pull together. And I put call to action at the top of the page because that is really the most important thing that you need to figure out. What is the purpose of the email that you're sending out? Because you want to do it from the point of view of the person receiving it. Can you make it interesting to them? Can you make it intriguing so that they'll want to click and take that next step? If it's just a data dump or an info dump on your part because you have this new product that you just want to make sure you get that out there and there's no benefit to the person receiving it, it's not going to get any traction. So figure out how to do a call to action that will be something of interest to the person that you're sending it to when it goes out. That may require that you build some landing pages. You can do this in Swiftpage. I don't recommend it because it's better if you can build landing pages on your own website and then drive the traffic to your website, and hopefully while they're there they'll see some other stuff that they'll want to look at as well, and you're going to keep them on your website longer, which is better for your SEO, better for your Google quality score as a website, and just better for business because the longer they stay, the more interested they are. If they can keep finding things, hopefully you've done your website so it's like a little breadcrumb trail and one thing leads to another, and they're going to get educated, and all of that from the email that you sent. So figure out what is the call to action. When they click on that call to action, where is that going to take them? Very rarely do you want to send people to your home page. You want to have a specific place on your website that relates to the offer that you're making. So if we go back and think about the project management enrollment email invite, what they should have done is had a landing page on their website that only talked about the next course that was coming up, only the next dates, maybe one more date after that for those people who have to plan way far in advance, and all the information that they would want to know, the testimonials, the here's how to pay, here's how to prepare for coming to class, all of the things that somebody would need to know, all of that would be on the landing page. So there's one place that they can go and be interested in it, but the email sent them there. So you're also going to need to have the URL of that landing page or whatever it is that you're going to ask people to do. It's much easier to go find the page yourself, copy that link, and then stick it in a file than it is to try to find it when you're sitting there trying to put all of your pieces together on an email when you're in the throes of answering phones and doing everything else. So maybe you'll need some logos, subject lines we're going to talk about in a minute. You're going to want to pull all your images together. You cannot use GIF images and GIF images in Swiftpage. So Todd, I guess that means you can't do any of those flashy ones. What are those called?
Animated GIFs.
Animated, yeah. So no animated GIFs either, right?
Right.
Okay. PDF files, you're not going to really do attachments in your email, but you can have people download the PDF from a hosted Swiftpage URL. So within your Swiftpage account, there's a place where you can upload your PDF and then link to it in your email. That's a call to action because they're going to be downloading. That's a trackable action. You're going to want to have your copy, and of course you're going to want to have a dynamic group of contacts set up in ACT so that you don't have to go start cherry picking, okay, this one but not that one, and take all the time to do that. Just throw them all in a dynamic group or some kind of group in ACT so that they're ready to go. Okay, so those are all your pieces and parts. I wanted to give you an example of what I'm talking about with landing pages. This was the email for today's training class that we sent out. And so when you clicked on this register now, you went to our landing page on our website, and the only thing on this page other than our navigation up here at the top is about our event today. So here's the information. Here's where you sign up if you're interested, and submit and pay. So it's a very clean 1-2 step. Now, I don't know if any of you do events, but I have a drip marketing camp that I do a couple of times a year that's $897. I would never send out an email that had a call to action for my drip camp for that price point. I would probably do a drip campaign, or that's what I've been doing, is a drip campaign, and then ask for the order in the drip campaign. But a one-off e-blast for an $897 product. So the more expensive your products are, the less likely you are going to be able to close with a single email, because remember I said the email is not the salesperson. So for $35, people can make their own mind up. A lot of people who work for companies, if any of you are not the business owner or the manager at your company, you probably can make an executive decision for $35, but maybe not for $900. So you also have to consider the audience and what you're asking them to do. Can they take the action that you want them to take? So this is an example of email, call to action, landing page. Now, I could have tried to recreate this page in Swiftpage. Swiftpage does landing pages. I could put my survey form from Swiftpage onto a landing page. But again, Swiftpage would be hosting that. I would get no SEO credit for it. It would not have a super long life. I don't trust that Swiftpage would keep my landing page out on the internet forever and ever. They purge a lot of their files after 2 months. I don't know if landing pages comes in under that rule or not, but like your email templates, for example, they're only going to be archived for 2 months. Some of you may have them in there longer, and I think that's just because they don't get around to purging them out as often as they used to do. But for the most part, you always want to control your own destiny with anything that you're going to do online, and the place to do that is at your hub, which is your website. Okay, let's talk about subject lines, and I want to show you this is the project management email again. Their subject line was, "This certification will launch your career forward." I kind of like that. It is a all about you subject line. There's a benefit in there for the reader. I like that. It tells me up front what the email is about, certification. I didn't copy who the from line was, the display from name was, but I don't remember if I could tell in my inbox before I opened it that it was the Project Management Resource Group. I think it actually said PMRG, which I wouldn't have known what that was. So maybe they could have done a little bit better job with their display name, but I always like subject lines that are very straightforward, and they not only identify what the value proposition is for me as the reader, but they make me interested in clicking through to read more about it. That's really the purpose of your subject line. Yes, you want to have a call to action in the subject line if you can, but the call to action should get them to open the email and read the email. You don't want to give away the entire punchline in the subject line, because then there would be no reason for them to open it. So, excuse me, an example of that is I'm on the Tuesday morning mailing list, which I get emails from them probably once a week. Tuesday morning is a discount department store kind of place. And I think they have some of the worst email. I should have copied one of those and put them in here. They have the worst email program ever. They take pictures of inventory, but it's not store specific. So just because you see something in the picture doesn't mean that the store will have it. I've gotten caught with that many times. It's one of my favorite places to just go and browse. So when I would get an email and see something in the email, and then I would go to the store, 9 times out of 10, they don't have it at that store. So that always irritated me. so I don't just go to the store based on an email anymore. So loss of credibility. And the subject line always says, always, every single time, every week, Tuesday morning, I think it's something like fresh inventory or newsletter. It's like something that never changes. Every email is just like every other. If I lined up all the emails in my inbox from them, they would all say exactly the same thing. Very, very bad. Bad, bad, bad. So you don't want to be too straightforward that it's boring and giving away too much information that prevents someone from being interested in clicking through. But you also don't want to be too cutesy. If you're too cutesy, people don't get it. You've got, it used to be 3 seconds. It's probably down to 1 second now of the time that they'll put towards deciding if they're going to delete you or not. The default is to delete the email. So you have to be better than the default to get a read. So here's this one from the white paper. This was a little confusing to me because they're calling it Google My Business as if somebody knows Google My Business. If I saw that phrase by itself, I'd probably understand what that meant. But Google My Business listings demystified. I like the demystified. Anything that demystifies anything online, I think, is always a good thing. That's a great verb. And having Google in a subject line probably doesn't hurt either. But this was a little bit confusing to me until I let it sink in. So it probably wouldn't have met my 3-second test, but it is straightforward, and I do like this verb. So overall, probably a B. I'd probably give that one a B. I didn't put a picture of the French Quarter or the fleur-de-lis lanterns on here. But the subject line for that one is the best, I think it was the best Valentine's Day gift ever. And of course that went out right around Valentine's Day when everybody's shopping for gifts, so I thought that was a very good subject line as well. If you are not sure what subject line you should use, but you can come up with some of them, or make it a little contest in the office to see who can come up with the best subject line, you can split test your list and send like 100 of each subject line to 3 or 4 different groups of people based on how many subject lines you come up with. Wait like a day or two and then look at the results, and the one that wins, send that one to everyone else. It's a little bit more work in your Swiftpage account to do something like that, but if it's going to be a constant series of things that you're sending out with your e-blast, it might be worth it to get a sense of what your audience is really interested in. Or you can just look at your results as well and see which ones got better opens, which ones got more clicks, and kind of just keep your style the same. All right, number 6, trackability. So I guess this is like one of my big surprises with eBlast, is that so many people send their emails without any thought of how they're going to track whether it worked or not. Todd and I have a client that we do an email for once a quarter, who shall go nameless, but there's really no call to action in the email. So all they have to go on is the open rate, and open rates are dropping. Some of it is because people don't read email as much as they used to, but I'd say maybe a percentage point or two. The main thing is that all of the email service providers are getting much more stringent on who they're going to allow through their spam filters and what constitutes an open. So in the old days, an open was at least 1 pixel being downloaded on an email that came into an inbox. Well, I think this has changed now on smartphones, but smartphones used to not track opens. Same with tablets. I think that's changed now because smartphones have gotten smarter. Todd, do you want to weigh in on that?
Well, there's a number of different things that are happening with it now, but if I open up an email on my phone, it automatically pulls in the images. Where if I do it on my desktop computer, either in Outlook or in Gmail, it asks you if you want to download the images. That's the tracking mechanism. Is if you download those images, then now they're tracking you whether you opened it or not. So if somebody is reading your email but does not download the images, they do not get tracked as an open. So that's one thing that's happening. But another thing that's happening, Google I know is doing this now. I'm not sure if anybody else is, but Google actually downloads the images for you and stores them separately in a different location, so that every time you go back to the email, it pulls from their stored images as opposed to going to the server. And so you're only counted as an open once. And even though you may open it many times, it only gets counted on the email provider's server once, because Google downloaded it once for you and then provided it for you after that. So there's lots of different mechanisms now that I think that's how the mobile devices are working too. But there's lots of different mechanisms now that are preventing those open rates from being as accurate as they used to be.
But I also never liked having open rates be my gauge on whether or not my emails were working or not, because from what you just heard from Todd, a lot of the open rate stats are out of your control. I mean, yes, you want to have good, non-spammy content, blah, blah, but the thing that you can control are clicks, and clicks are what are ultimately trackable and monetizable, more so than an open. So yes, opens are important, but we want clicks. And so how can you build in as many clicks as possible into the email that you're putting all this blood, sweat, and tears into getting right? So I have one idea. Well, I have many ideas, but I'm going to share this one idea. So this was an email that we put together last year, and this is something that we've started doing on every email blast. Yeah, pretty much every email blast now. So we send the same email with different subject lines 3 times. And the way that that works is we use the Swiftpage drip marketing module. So if you don't have that, you would have to get that in order to be able to do what I'm about to show you. But in most cases, silver level is plenty, and that might be like another $30 a month. So on the first day, we send it to everybody. So this email goes to everybody on our list. So that's this stage. I'm showing you what a drip marketing setup looks like in the drip marketing module in Swiftpage. So instead of sending it out as a live blast, you would set it up as a drip marketing campaign in the drip marketing module, and the first stage, day 1, would go to everybody. So when you get the handouts from this training today, which you will get tomorrow with the recording, you can see how we set this up. So if you wanted to mimic it, you would just select the preferences the way that we've done it here. So one subject line here, I'm going in a new direction. That was message number 1. Then message number 2 went out to the unopened. So everybody who got that first message but did not open it. And again, as Todd said, it's not an accurate thing, but it's the best we can do. So everybody who did not open got the message on day 2, got the second message on day 4. So this subject line was, did you hear about my new direction? So you don't want to use the same subject line, because in case they just were busy, the recipient was busy and just didn't have a chance to get to it yet, they don't want to see the same subject line multiple times in their inbox. That would just annoy them. So we changed the subject line. So then we did a call list. So we said, okay, show us everybody who interacted with messages 1 and 2. Then 10 days later, we came back a third time, and our subject line was, is Swiftpage Act working for you? And then another call list here. So 3 times, 3 different subject lines spanning 10 days with the intent of trying to get as many people as possible on our list to read that message. And I want to show you why that's important. So in the drip marketing module, there is a stage tracking report. And this is just a snippet of our entire list, but here's everybody. I should have blocked that out. So don't read email addresses. Here's everybody that we sent to. Here was stage 1. Always going to get a better response on the first one. But as you can see, we're still getting responses through stage 3, the third email going out. And if we wouldn't have done that, if we would have just sent it once and been done, we would have missed these other people. So it's not as big of a response the second and third time, but it is more of a response. And if we can get just a few of those people to click, that's more trackability for that one message that we sent out. Very important to the success of the eBlast to optimize as much as possible the people who are going to be able to take advantage of whatever it is that we're sending. So I want to break. And Todd, do we have any questions?
No, not right now.
Okay. All right. So what we just covered was, oh, missed it right here. So we just covered the email blast point of the treasure triangle. Next week, on the 9th, next Monday, we're going to talk about e-newsletters. And then on March 16th, we're going to come back and talk about drip marketing. If you incorporate all 3 components of the treasure triangle this year, and we're still pretty young in the year, you are going to see a marked difference in the results from your e-marketing that you're doing than if all you do all year long is just this one. And that just goes without saying. So if you have a chance to do more marketing that doesn't cost any more money, other than maybe you have to get the drip marketing module, but it's a small investment. But compared with other things that you could be doing that you probably would have to pay for in terms of advertising, this is a way that you can leverage your Swiftpage account and get more mileage out of the subscription that you already have. And probably, you know, somewhere on here, I don't know how that would work, but surveys and web forms, which is another part of what's included in your Swiftpage subscription. Surveys are free. Putting web forms up on your website, that's free using your Swiftpage account. So all of those can become part of the treasure triangle as well. And that's a very, very powerful e-marketing program for any company to have if it's well thought through. So part of what we're going to be doing is explaining how each component works, but then showing you how you can put it all together into one very powerful e-marketing system for your company that gets you maximum leads, maximum referrals, maximum sales, maximum traffic to your website. I think that's all I have to talk about, Todd. So please ask questions now if there's anything that you want that's specific to your situation. Happy to take some calls. We have some time left. If you want to shoot us an email with a question that's specific to your situation, please feel free to do that. Here's our contact information. Todd and I are also both on Skype, if that's easier. And if we don't have anything, Todd, then I think we can.
We have a question.
Okay.
Kim asks, how do I make my photos look better?
How do you make your photos look better? I'm assuming that you're talking about on the email, not behind the lens, because I can't help you with that one. You want to clarify that a little bit? I'm not sure how to approach the answer to that question. Unless you want to take a shot at it, Todd.
Yeah, I don't know. Here's one from Jill while we're waiting. What are good examples of call to action for service industry?
Oh, good question. Great question. Okay. So in service businesses, people always want the phone call. That has the most high risk or the most risk aversion to it. So you want the call. The recipient doesn't want to call. The recipient calling means they've, shown you their cards. That they're not ready to do that. So a good call to action is the white paper. Download the white paper ebook, like we showed you in the one email. It could be, and it doesn't have to be ebooks and white papers. It could be cheat sheets. It could be read this blog post about, XYZ to get more information. And when you link that URL in your email, you can now track who clicks through. Another one of my favorite ones is to have like maybe 3 articles that you link to. And you say, if you're the kind of person who's like this, click here. But if you're the kind of person who's like that, then click here. And you have 3 choices, and you monitor who is clicking on which links. That's one of my favorite ways to do it. That's really super easy. Landing page is required. Another good one is sending people to a price page. A lot of people have strong feelings about not wanting to put pricing on their website. I've gone both ways. In the last couple of years, we have put pricing on the website, and yeah, it probably prevents certain people from calling because they get the answers they want and they don't have to call. But I have also found that people have appreciated not having to make that initial contact in order to get the price, and then they've commented to me about it later. But that's a very high value page on your website. So if you can send people there, people who are not interested prospects are not going to go to a pricing page. Only people who are truly interested. Even if they're not interested in necessarily buying right now, but at least in having a relationship with you at some point, they're going to go to a pricing page. So that's another good one. Inviting them to an event. So you might want to have an event specifically for some kinds of prospects, or you might want to do a webinar like we're doing. You might want to have a downloadable, maybe you've had an event in the past and you've recorded it, and so you can make that available to people to download and put that behind a sign-up form. So they don't always have to be calls to action that people have to fill out forms for. Sometimes you can just let them have it and just track the click, but sometimes it makes sense to put the offer behind a form so that you can get complete information. And those forms can be connected back to your ACT database so that your ACT information is being updated at the same time. That's really cool. Did we get a clarification on images?
Yeah, we can clarify a little bit.
Okay.
She says, my photos in my blast are all fuzzy. I have to compress them so much they look bad on the blast.
Yeah. Okay. Todd, why don't you take that one?
Yeah, there's a couple things you could do with that. Probably the biggest one would be determining what program you're using to adjust all of these, whether it's Photoshop or something along those lines. Each one is a little different. You may try different programs. They compress them a little bit differently. So, I mean, beyond that, I'm not much of a graphic artist myself. So I would say find a graphic artist and see if they can help you with that. Do you have anything else, Lori?
Sometimes how you take the picture determines how big the images are. For the most part, you want to go big to small as opposed to small to big. Like if you take them on your cell phone, sometimes your cell phone will automatically compress the image so that it could be emailed, for example. Well, you don't want that if you're just going to download it and use it in an email. You'd rather have it big and then resize it to the final size that you need. And then I think what Todd said is, try to get it as close to the size that's going to go on the email as you can before you upload it.
Okay. Jill, follow-up question. What's the strategy for follow-up on people who have clicked or opened?
Oh, very good question. Opened, I wouldn't, again, I'm not a fan of opens as a metric. It's just more of a that's interesting metric. Although I will say when you look in your Swiftpage report, sometimes somebody will show that they've opened 61 times or some outrageously high number. Typically that means that that person is forwarding your email to other people, not that they opened it themselves 61 times. So in that case, I would have an aha moment and I would probably stick a salesperson on that person, because if they thought your email was great enough to forward, then they're probably in the market at some level. So I would stick a salesperson on them. In terms of clicks, you have to decide how are clicks that you're offering them at the top of the funnel, the middle of the funnel, the bottom of the funnel. When I say funnel, sales funnel. So, for example, what I said before about pricing page being a high-value page for people to go to, people who would click on that link are probably at the bottom of the funnel and probably need to have somebody follow up with them immediately. Somebody who clicks on download this white paper, we don't have enough information yet to know. So obviously if you have a sales force and you run a Swiftpage call list, I would have everybody follow up on the hots because that's a salesperson's job. But if you have fewer resources and you need to place them only on high-value tasks, then I would be a little bit more selective and just do it when you have people clicking on links that you've determined are more towards the bottom of your sales funnel.
Okay, and Gay asks, I'm sending a pre-conference email to ask them to stop by my booth. Any ideas for clicks? And would a picture of the giveaway be profitable?
Oh, yeah, I like that. Absolutely. In terms of clicks, you could have them click on a form to register for the drawing in advance, and you can tell them if they came by the booth, they can have a second entry, but if they click on the email, they can get a first entry. And you could also put a qualifying question on there. Are you planning to be at the show live? Yes or no. So then that way they enter the drawing. They can still participate if they're not going to the event, but you're getting a qualified question answered so that you kind of have a sense of who to watch out for at the booth. And it makes it a little bit more fun if you can give the people that really show up, give them a double entry, stuff the ballot box.
That's the last one.
Great questions, everyone. All right, well, you are now fully certified to do your email blasts. Come back next week. We're going to do more about newsletters, and then the week after on drip marketing. And looking forward to hearing if you have any questions to bring to the next two, be thinking of them now. And if you would like me to use you as a victim, guinea pig, whatever, in our webinar examples, send me some stuff as well. All right, everybody, have a great week. See you next week.